Ubisoft goes Steamworks bye-bye, always on DRM. He typed it again and again. Within the next 24 to 48 hours, he posted that phrase, or a variation of it, more than 4,000 times across Reddit. The comments came at speeds that should not have been possible for a human typing manually. The text warped as the hours passed. Words compressed together into walls with no spaces. Lines containing nothing but the capital letter R stretched down the full screens. Raw HTML code appeared mid-sentence. Images uploaded to Imager showed a room lined entirely with stainless steel, hand-drawn puppet figures with no faces. The account was banned, then deleted. No explanation was given. The community was left with thousands of screenshots, a set of images that looked like something from a horror film, and no account of why any of it had happened. For 9 years, the internet treated it as a ghost story. Today, we're going to walk through the 3 explanations Reddit settled on, in the order they became harder to dismiss, and then the explanation nobody expected. Act 1. The Machine. The first explanation was the obvious one. Volume alone ruled out most alternatives. Thousands of comments in under 48 hours, many posted within seconds of each other, most containing the same phrase with minor variations. That speed implied automation, a script, something running in a loop and firing posts faster than any human could produce them. The explanation fit the period. By 2010, spam bots and automated posting scripts were a documented problem across Reddit and most major platforms. The phrase itself referenced a real event. Earlier that year, Ubisoft had implemented an always-on digital rights management system for its PC titles. The backlash had been substantial. A bot seeded with that text would not need a purpose beyond testing for targeted harassment. The text behavior reinforced this. Some researchers noted that the arrangement of words across the thousands of posts appeared to mirror a Markov chain generator, a mathematical system that generates text based on probability distribution. The malformed sentences, the compressed words, the recursive loops, all of it looked like what happens when an automated system reaches the edge of its parameters and starts producing noise. The machine explanation was clear. No malicious intent required. No human involvement during the incident. A script ran, the script misbehaved, an account was flagged and removed. Except that the text was modified by hand. A copy-paste bot doesn't adjust the layout of individual lines. It doesn't introduce new characters, embed raw HTML, or shift structural elements in ways that require active judgment. Genuine spam automation in 2010 was blunt. It fired identical strings until detection stopped it. The posts in the u/YAYVIDEOGAMES threads were deliberately different. In a thread about a Hulu ad, the phrase didn't repeat cleanly. It mutated. Ubisoft. Ubisoft goes Steamworks bye-bye, always on DRM. Goes Steam, Ubisoft goes. That is not automation malfunctioning. That is a person choosing to change what they're producing. And there was the network. During the incident, dozens of alternate accounts appeared. U/not sure how big you are. U/no substance here. U/final record. Each had its own posting history. Normal discussions about music, software, unrelated topics, before pivoting to the same phrase, or to fragmented, nonsensical exchanges with the main account. They violently agreed with u/YAYVIDEOGAMES. They talked to each other. One account would spam the word load several thousand times mid-conversation, then return to a normal discussion as though nothing had happened. An automated spam bot does not build a network of human-constructed accounts with months of genuine activity. Whatever was producing the posts was not a malfunctioning script. It was a person. Act 2. Once the machine theory collapsed, the question became purpose. Random human behavior does not produce thousands of posts across 48 hours at near mechanical speeds. It does not maintain a network of alternate accounts. It does not embed photographs of a stainless steel room alongside hand-drawn puppets and fragmented text. Every element of the incident looked constructed. That implied intent. The ARG community had the most developed theory. An alternate reality game is a narrative built on real infrastructure. The audience participates without being told directly that it's fiction. The game treats the real world as its platform. Real websites, real forums, real images. Clues are planted in public spaces, disguised as ordinary content. Players find them and assemble a picture from fragments that were never meant to look connected. The imagery fits this framework. The stainless steel room photographs were unsettling in a specific way, not because they depicted anything directly threatening, but because the room should not exist. Private apartments are not lined with industrial steel. The puppet drawings were handmade and wrong in the deliberate way that handmade things can be when someone needs them to be. Hidden text is embedded inside the comment formatting, overlapping conversations between alternate accounts that seem to hold internal logic if you squinted hard enough. An ARG designer would build exactly this kind of scatter, fragments distributed across a public platform, waiting for someone patient enough to compile them. The phrase itself could be a carrier signal. Ubisoft goes Steamworks bye-bye always on DRM was a recognizable reference. Any PC gaming follower in 2010 had heard it. Using a familiar, low-suspicion phrase to mask an underlying signal was a documented technique. If the actual message was in the variation between instances, a surface phrase people dismissed as spam was a near-perfect cover. Viral marketing ran alongside this. 2010 was early in ARG history, and studios were still treating the format as genuinely novel. A stunt of this scale, executed on one of the largest public forums on the internet, would generate exactly the confused, obsessive community engagement that marketing teams were chasing. Investigators would do the promotional work for free. The problem was the absence of a payoff. ARGs have conclusions. Communities that solve them get something. An acknowledgement, a reveal, a next phase. When YAYVIDEOGAMES was banned and deleted, nothing followed. No studio came forward, no solution emerged. The images went unexplained. The alternate accounts fell silent. Investigation threads that spent months compiling every recoverable detail found nothing that assembled into a coherent picture. An ARG abandoned in place doesn't read like an ARG. It reads like something that was never designed to be solved. The steel room was the clearest indicator. A production team building props for a viral campaign uses unsettling materials, but they didn't use the materials structurally necessary. A room lined with stainless steel costs money, takes time, and exists because someone needed it. Whatever the steel room was, it was not a prop. Act 3. In March 2019, a user named u/Luke Clash posted to the u/YAYVIDEOGAMES subreddit. Luke had been one of the person's closest friends since childhood. The user's real name was Lyndon. What Luke described was not a mystery. it was a life. Lyndon had been a pianist. He was skilled enough at arrangement that people who knew him considered it exceptional. He was obsessive about music in a way that felt like someone who had genuinely organized their thinking around it. The digital archive he assembled over the years would have required more than 2,000 consecutive days of continuous listening to complete. He loved David Lynch and the Dadaist art movement. He followed David Firth, who produced surreal internet animations in the early 2000s. He and Luke had started an electronic music project called The Revenant. A MySpace server migration wiped most of it out. For his younger siblings, he wrote illustrated short stories, original ones, detailed guides for fighting the monsters in his nightmares, practical instructions, specific strategies delivered with the seriousness of someone who believed the monsters were worth taking seriously. In the early 2000s, doctors diagnosed Lyndon with chronic fatigue syndrome. Around 2003, a severe nasal congestion problem developed into a bacterial infection inside his skull. It was unmanaged for years. The damage triggered a permanent nerve pain condition, invisible, constant, and unresponsive to standard interventions. Lyndon dropped out of high school in 2005. He withdrew from most of the world and retreated into a digital one. His sensory sensitivity worsened. Smoke, household smells, and anything airborne became intolerable. He eventually lost his sense of smell entirely. He moved into an isolated apartment and lined the walls with stainless steel sheeting. Stainless steel is non-porous. He doesn't absorb odors. It can be scrubbed completely clean. He built a room he could breathe in. His doctors prescribed Lyrica and pregabalin for nerve pain. The medication caused immediate weight gain and reduced his mobility to near zero. His medical team added heavy opioids to the protocol. Luke's account of what followed was direct. The chemical combination ruined Lyndon's psyche. It caused his cognition to lock into recursive loops, thoughts that repeated, cycled, and couldn't release. He would find a phrase and type it for hours and hours without stopping. By September 2010, Lyndon had been isolated for 5 years. He was in constant pain. The medications had changed his body and altered his thinking. The internet was what he had. The 4,000 posts were not a spambot. They were a person whose thoughts had locked onto a phrase and wouldn't let go, typing at a computer for 2 straight days. Ubisoft goes Steamworks, bye-bye, always on DRM was real. He had cared about Ubisoft's DRM rollout. He had actual opinions about it. In a different life, he would have posted something considered and moved on. But instead, the phrase was there when the loop started. It stayed. The alternate accounts were not a coordinated network built for effect. They were him. In the way that people are multiple things at once, different registers of the same mind, trying to engage with something, to communicate in whatever form was available. Dadaism was not a pose he adopted for the incident. It was a framework he had carried since adolescence. He and his friends had a word for it: ang tot, deliberate absurdist provocation, confusion inflicted on bystanders as an end in itself. Real life ang tot looked like cutting the power to the house without warning when friends came over, or covering a sleeping person in raw oats and waiting. The Reddit incident was, in part, a digital extension of this, a massive piece of surrealist performance made possible by illness, medication, isolation, and years of having nowhere to put anything. He was making something, he was also in crisis. Both of those things were true at the same time. Lyndon died in early 2015. He was 30 or 31 years old at the time. In the months before his death, he and Luke had made a plan. Once Luke recovered from hospitalization, they were going to work together to get Lyndon's health back on track. Physical therapy, education. Lyndon had started the exercises Luke had written out for him. He was eating better. He talked about losing the weight that the medication had put on him. He wanted to go rollerblading again, something he had loved as a teenager before he couldn't anymore. Luke was in the hospital for a month. They could not communicate before that time. Lyndon became overwhelmed by his physical pain and everything accumulated. He ended his life. He left notes for the people he knew. For 9 years, the internet had a ghost story. A broken bot, an abandoned ARG, a man who cracked. Each explanation was stranger than the last. The screenshots circulated. The images of the steel room passed from thread to thread. Community investigations spent months compiling every recoverable detail. What they assembled was a record of the incident, not a record of Lyndon. Lyndon played piano. He had a music archive that would have taken more than 2,000 days to finish listening to. He wrote illustrated stories for his siblings about fighting monsters. He had a project with his best friend that was erased by a server migration. He was doing physical therapy exercises written out for him on a piece of paper, trying to get back to rollerblading. But none of that survived the way the screenshots survived. The incident became what the internet kept, because the incident was strange in the right way, and the rest of Lyndon's life was only strange to him. The stainless steel room looked like a horror set, but it was a room a man built so he could breathe. That distinction was invisible from the outside. It still is for most things people post in pain on the internet, not knowing anyone is watching or who is guessing wrong about what they're seeing. The ghost story is still circulating. The Revenant is gone.